loud. Yay. All right. I am trying to admit everybody. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to let everybody's audio connect and everybody's everything connect. And you do not have to be through video if you don't want to, except for you want to see our beautiful authors' faces. We're going to get started here in a few minutes. I'm going to give people a little bit more time to get logged in. There's people trying to get to the auditorium. Sorry. So welcome to the Neuse Regional Library's DIY Summer Program. Hi. They thought that they had the auditorium. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, come on. So again, let me start all over. Okay. All right. Welcome to the Neuse Regional Library's DIY Summer, How to Get Published. This is part of our summer activity program. It's for all of our fun adults that frequent our library. This came together just through an idea that I had before the beginning of summer. I was thinking, well, I don't want to just do a regular reading program. We want to get people doing things and getting different ideas and like how-to stuff. So I thought, I'm going to contact my friend Sarah because she is a writer and people always want to know about writers and publishing and all that. We actually just started a writers group here at the library back in April. I think we're all the way up to like 7 members now, which is awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, and we meet once a month and they really enjoy it. So I'm hoping that some of them actually get logged in. But anyway, I just wanted to welcome all of our Snowy Wings Publishing authors. And I'm going to turn things over real quick to let you guys all introduce yourselves. And then I'm going to let Lyssa tell us a little bit more about Snowy Wings. And then we'll start with some questions.
So I'm Lyssa Chiavari, and I'm the founder of Snowy Wings Publishing. I also write under the pen name Elisa Houston, and I live in Oregon. I'll leave it there for now.
I'm Victoria Gilbert, and I joined Snowy Wings close to when it started, and have 2 books out with them. I also write mysteries under the Victoria Gilbert name. So I'm sort of a hybrid. Well, I am a hybrid author. I have things with the co-op and I have books with a traditional publisher.
Awesome.
I'm Sarah Dale. I'm in Nebraska and I have a series published through Snowy Wings, the Zodiac Cusp Kids series, and book 6 is just about to come out as soon as I finish writing it. And yeah, so that's me. Hi.
Hi, I'm Mary Fan. I've been with Snowy Wings since I think 2016 or 2017 when it kind of started. I've got a couple of books with them. Starswept, that's one of them. Windborn, that's another. I also contributed to Magic at Midnight over here. That's our fairy tale anthology. And I'm also a hybrid author. So in addition to publishing with the Snowy Wings Co-op, I also have books with other places.
Hi, I'm Leigh Hellman. I'll go next. I'm Leigh Hellman. I'm based currently out of Chicago. My pronouns are they, them. I have my first novel, novel out with Snowy Wings, which is Orbit. And I have been with them since maybe 2017, something around there. I also have a piece in Magic at Midnight and our upcoming anthology, Sing Goddess, which Lyssa can show at some point. Yeah, I also have other things, mostly short stories published elsewhere.
Okay. Hi, I'm Janina Franck. I've been with Snowy Wings for since 2018. I have 4 books published with them, including Captain Black Shadow, of which I currently only have the Kindle version here. I'm originally from Germany, but I live in Ireland now. And yeah, I like to dabble in different genres.
that
Hi,
everybody? Oh, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm Dorothy Dreyer. I also dabble in different genres. I'm also a hybrid author. I have a couple of series with Snowy Wings, as well as a couple of other things with some traditional publishers. And I've been with Snowy Wings almost from the beginning as well. And I'm living in Germany.
Oh, wow.
Wow, this Germany and Ireland and Oregon on this call. Or in, I guess.
Yes, that's Sherry. She's one of our regular library patrons who likes to Zoom in with us when we have Zoom programs. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Sherry.
Hi, I'm sorry. Could y'all hear me?
We can,
Oh,
that's
my
okay.
husband, I said, this is so exciting. I said, we've got Germany and Ireland and Oregon and Goldsboro, and I didn't realize y'all could hear me, so I will mute myself. I'm very sorry.
You're totally fine. You're fine. I'm just glad you could be here, Sherry.
Gotta be honest, it's a good thing I didn't say anything terrible, isn't it? All right, I'm leaving now.
All right, Lyssa, would you like to tell, did we get everybody's introductions? Awesome. Lyssa, would you like to tell us a little bit more about Snowy Wings and what it's all about and the difference that makes it what from a regular, you know what I'm trying to say.
Right. So Snowy Wings Publishing is a co-op publisher. So instead of being a traditional publisher that is royalty based, I mean, I guess they're always royalty based, but the point is that we're not the ones paying the royalties. I'm putting my foot in my mouth. Let me start over. Snowy Wings is a co-op publisher. We are all indie authors, so we are responsible for uploading our own books to the different retailers and marketing our own books and stuff. So it's like self-publishing in that regard, but we also, because we're a group and we use the same imprint, we have like a standards list that we have to adhere to when it comes to like editing quality and things like that. So it's a little bit of both worlds in that we're not a traditional publisher, but we have a little bit more structure than just self-publishing. And we also have a little bit more ties to the traditional publishing industry, such as library distribution deals and access to trade reviewers and stuff like that. And Snowy Wings basically started as a way for a group of indie authors. Originally, when it started, it was myself, Jane Watson, T. Damon, and Selenia Paz. And it was just kind of like, let's publish our books together because we want to have hardcovers from Ingram Spark. But from there, it was the fall of 2016, and there were a big group of my friends who were traditionally published who were given their rights back and were needing to self-publish their books. And a lot of them were kind of not really knowing what to do and hadn't ever done publishing before. And so we came up with the idea of forming this co-op as a way for us to be able to help each other out and offer expertise and help people who had only been traditionally published up until that point kind of get a feel for what indie publishing is all about. And so that was like the origin of Snowy Wings.
I forgot I was muted. That's awesome. I did not know that. And I don't remember how I came across Snowy Wings. It had to have been through Sarah. Because when I am a big major fan of her Zodiac Cusp Kids books. And so when I think it's when she joined you guys, that's whenever I was like, oh, Snowy Wings, or maybe it was before, because I've heard of Mary for a while. I think I've heard of everybody off and on, because I've been following like just indie authors for years and years and years through like Twitter, and I'm not on Twitter anymore, but just meeting different people. Yeah.
Down with Twitter.
Yeah. Um, so it's nice to see all the faces for names that I've heard a lot, over the past 5 years. So that's really, really cool. And so I guess the next big question that, and I'll let you guys start with whatever order you decided, because they've planned ahead. These ladies have been working on this. So our first question for our Zoom is just to tell us a little bit like how you came to be a Snowy Wings author. What was the process like? And we'll just start there. What was your process like of joining Snowy Wings?
Well, I will skip this one since I found it. So you can go ahead, Victoria.
Okay. Well, actually, Lyssa approached me and asked me if I was interested because I had a couple of books out with a publisher, and things didn't go quite as well as we would have hoped. So I do have an agent, and she and I decided to pull my rights from that publisher at that time. And I was kind of like, well, here's these books that have been out, and I had a book that was finished. That was a sequel that I wanted to put out. And so somehow in conversations online, Lyssa found out about that and asked me if I would be interested, which I definitely was, because I was able to bring out, now these are new covers from the original ones because you can't keep your covers when you pull your rights and so forth, but Crown of Ice, which is a retelling of The Snow Queen by H.C. Andersen, and also the sequel to that, Scepter of Fire, which had been written and ready to be published before I pulled my rights. So I wanted to get these books back out in the world, and Snowy Wings was a great way to do that. And I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Computer to unmute. There we go. Okay. I had a similar experience. I had been published with another indie publisher, and there are all kinds of indie publishers. This group that I was with was lovely and very kind, and it was a couple that was running the show, and they had some unfortunate health issues, and so they had to shut down. But the nice thing about them was they handed us all back our rights without any scuffle. So we didn't have to fight that particular battle. So I was able to then turn around and it was Carissa Laurel that you and I knew, Nicole, that connected us. She published in one of the, was it Cast of Wonders that she published in?
It was Magic at Midnight, the one.
Magic at Midnight, yeah, she was in that one. And I asked her, if you guys might be a good match, and she was pretty excited about it and gave Lyssa a call and gave me a good review, hopefully. But it was an exciting process then to have to go by the new standards and look for new cover art and go through all of that process over again in a much more sort of personal way than I had originally. So that was pretty interesting. Here are a couple of the covers, which Janina is my cover artist and has made these absolutely gorgeous covers for the Zodiac Cusp Kids. There are a couple more that I like you. I only have them on online, which is probably really hard to see. Yeah, that's impossible. But at any rate, putting together new cover art was a lot of fun, and the process with these guys has been lovely and different and very supportive and helpful, which is fantastic. I'm gonna pass it on to Mary.
So the first book I published with Snowy Wings was Star Slept, right here. And the story with that one is that I sort of tried to go the traditional route with it. I wrote it, I polished it, I submitted it to agents, actually got an agent submitted it to publishers. It made it all the way to acquisitions, and marketing was just like, we like your book, but we don't think it's gonna sell, so we're not acquiring it. Broke my poor heart. And I was like, F it, I'm gonna publish it myself, because I've worked so hard on this book. I'd actually done like multiple revisions for not only my agent, but also for like the acquiring editor. So I was like, you know what, this book is polished and I don't want it to sit on my computer for the rest of eternity. So I'm going to publish it myself. And I was originally planning to just go out there and do it all alone. And I think I was probably talking about this on Twitter or something, because then Lyssa actually reached out to me and was like, hey, if you're planning on self-publishing, I recently founded this indie co-op. And I was like, oh, that would be so awesome because, it's so scary to go out there like all alone and try to like publish a book. So I was like, this would be awesome to like have a team behind you and just not have to be by yourself. And then the other book I have with Snowy Wings is Windborn. And this one actually was acquired by an indie publisher, but for various reasons, I decided to take my rights back. And so I was like, well, you know what? I had a great experience with Snowy Wings for the Starswept series. So I'm going to do Windborn for that as well. On to Leigh.
Glad we have an order sort of now to go by. So I think there's a lot of similarity between a lot of our stories. Mine is similar in a lot of ways. I had written Orbit. I'd been writing it probably for quite a while, probably close to 10 years on and off, because I'm a very slow writer. And I had gone to get my master's in English, and so I had some connections with kind of the sort of the literary fiction world, specifically in short fiction. And so I had that kind of stuff published through other publications, but that's a very different sort of field and network from novels, and especially genre novels. Basically, there's a lot of kind of some strange politics and sort of infighting stuff that happens sometimes between literary fiction and genre fiction. But so I had this book that I kind of was like, I don't know what to do with it. I kind of shopped it around some. I had some interest, but it never really it wasn't getting the traction or going in the directions I wanted it to. And I connected through a mutual author that Lyssa and I ended up knowing, and that person connected me with Lyssa ultimately, and I sent in my manuscript, and she was like, yeah, let's do this. So that's how I ended up with Snowy Wings. And on to Dorothy, I believe.
Or Janina.
Or Janina? Yeah. I don't remember. One of you. Sorry.
No problem. Okay. I think my path is a little different to everyone else's. So I self-published my first book when I was in college in 2016. And shortly thereafter, I became sort of email pen pals with one of the other authors in Snowy Wings, Lauren. And that Lauren was so enthusiastic about Snowy Wings in every way that I ended up following Snowy Wings and just kind of watching on the sidelines for 2 years. And then when there was an open call for manuscripts, I kind of jumped at the chance to, republish my book, Captain Black Shadow, which is a pirate fantasy adventure.
I guess that leads to me. I also have a similar story. Mine is almost just like Vicky's. We were actually with the same publisher. Luckily my agent got me my rights back, but I didn't publish the books that I got my rights back to with Snowy Wings, not yet anyway. My publisher, my agent took them and started to pitch them. I had also started another series at that time, and so she was pitching that as well. And when Vicky told me about the co-op, I had a chat with Lyssa and decided to write my Curse of the Phoenix series. And yeah, now I have those 2 books plus a 7-book series, Empire of the Lotus. That one I have. This is the omnibus of that one. And yeah, I was very happy to have all the support from my fellow authors.
So what I'm hearing is that everybody, and I really love this, that you guys all kind of came together. Like Lyssa started everything, but everybody came together and was like, we're going to do this thing and we're going to make this awesome thing. And now you're all like working together and putting your stuff out there. And that's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, what I've always really liked about, sorry, it's allergy day. What I've always really liked about Snowy Wings is the community. Everybody is very helpful to each other and supportive of each other. And if anyone has a question, like nobody's afraid to just pop into our author Facebook group and ask it. And people are really nice and supportive of each other. And that's really what I like about it, is that it's a good community.
Yeah, yeah. There's another part to that question, but I think we're going to skip it because we're really focusing on that. We might come back to that, but so before you found Snowy Wings, or not just found the publishing company, but like before any of you were part of Snowy Wings, and I know some of this you may have spoke on, but how did you search or research publishers? And do you have any advice to anyone that wanted to get published?
For me, and this is actually part of the reason why I decided to found Snowy Wings in the first place, is I had been more active on Twitter. I had kind of been friends with other authors. Some of them I met through Twitter, and some of them I knew in real life. And I'd like heard various different publishing experiences from people who were big five, you know, like Macmillan and Little Brown and those big ones, or people who were with smaller independent publishers. And just from talking to them and hearing about their experiences, I just knew that it wasn't something I wanted to do. And so I had read a book by Susan K. Quinn that I think was called The Indie Author Survival Guide. And weighing her experiences and advice versus the experiences of my friends who had been traditionally published, I just felt that for me, indie publishing was what I wanted to do. So that's basically been where I've pretty much stayed. Under my other pen name, I did have some traditionally published books. And so now I can say confidently, from actually having experienced it, that I definitely prefer indie publishing and will want to stick with that forever. And so, yeah, like knowing that I wanted to do that, but also wanting to have a support group and friends and kind of not have to go it alone was how I came up with the idea for founding Snowy Wings and why I chose to publish the way I did.
Well, it was a little different. I had gotten an agent before I got the deal on the first books that they ended up then republishing with Snowy Wings. I don't have that agent now. I have a different agent, but it was, you know, I was starting out, I didn't have any clout. And so, you know, I got placed with a publisher who looked good on the surface, but turned out not to be. And I think, you know, I've had both experiences with traditional publishing. I've had a bad experience, and I now have a very good experience with my mystery publisher, Crooked Lane Books. So I can see both ways. And I mean, you know, sometimes it's really great and sometimes it's not. So, you know, I think the greatest thing about something like Snowy Wings or is that, you know, if you self-publish, you're sort of yourself, you know, trying to promote your it's just you. And people can get tired of hearing, oh, buy my book or whatever. But, you know, I can promote Leigh's books or Dorothy's books or whoever's books, and it really helps because the group is promoting, and you have a sense of like a lot of people adding to that promotion without you feeling like you're just screaming about your book all the time. So I think that's really important. You know, in traditional publishing, you still have to promote yourself, and I still have people who help promote my books who happen to be with my other publisher too. So I think in both cases, you know, it's that community that really makes the big difference. Let Sarah talk.
It's absolutely the truth. It's the people that make the difference. I mean, I do feel very lucky that the first group that I got together with, the first publisher that I got together with, they were kind. their hearts were in the right place. They didn't know what the heck they were doing. And it was a little bit, you know, by the seat of their pants. But it was a good way to get sort of into it and be able to have a book with them and say, okay, well, now I can look at some of the other indie publishers and say, what are the differences? And so I published another piece through a different publisher, and it had an absolutely hideous experience with it. So again, it just totally depends on the people that you're working with. I think regardless of what level or, you know, size of organization. And honestly, y'all are great. These people are fabulous. So I just did want to share briefly a story that my day job is as a librarian, and I was at an ALA meeting or a conference several years back, and I was listening to some folks who had won a state-specific award to Nebraska. They had the elementary school, middle grade, and young adult winners of the Golden Sower Award that year had come to speak. And I was kind of shocked by the stories that they told about their publishers and how they started out with those jobs and those particular stories, and that so much of it was like, you will write this. And then they did, you know. And I thought, oh, no, I don't want to do that. No, thank you. So this is lovely in so many ways, not the least of which is community, but a lot of also which is freedom of the stories that we want to tell. And that's highly appreciated. Mary, I'm going to hand off to you.
All right. So when I was first starting out, I had no idea what I was doing. I had just graduated college, and I had, you know, written one manuscript just for fun, was working on another. And I actually ended up signing with 2 indie publishers. That's almost like a tale of 2 indie publishers, because one is still going strong, and they've actually like developed, you know, kind of a reputation for being one of the good indie publishers out there. And one is technically still out there, but I don't want to like, you know, trash them or anything because they're still trying to make it. But let's just say it was not a good experience, and they dragged out the process for so long, and I kind of realized my book was never coming out. And so I guess do your research would be my advice to new authors. I thought I did, but because both of these indie publishers at the time were so new and I was nobody, I was just like, if somebody wants my book, just take it, basically. And I ended up regretting it with the one, but then like being really happy with the other. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure what I could have done differently other than maybe try to ask more people about, you know, their experiences. I have had people like reach out to me being like, hey, I saw you published with these people, like, what do you think? And I try to be as honest as possible with my answer. So yeah, so in terms of the small presses out there, it can be hard to tell, especially when they're new, like which direction they're going to be going in. And the advantage of these kinds of publishers is that they tend to be hungrier for manuscripts. So when you're starting out and you have like no clout, like it can be a foot in the door, but also be careful. On to Leigh.
Yeah, so I actually really want to echo a lot of what everybody said, but especially what Mary just said, which is, I mean, for as much as I could or anyone could put on airs of like, oh, it was, you know, it was like this and I did this and I know everything, that I know what I'm talking about, or I know what I have some sort of expertise. I don't, not even now, but certainly like there is a sense of when you write something and if you haven't, you know, you're passionate about it, it's kind of your baby and you want to get it out there. And there definitely was a sense with me of like, somebody wants to take it, sure, like please take it, like you know, kind of begging someone to publish it. And I think that is not an uncommon experience, especially among first or early manuscripts. So and I don't know, like Mary said, I don't know that there's necessarily a way to get past that as a beginning author. In some ways, I think sadly that's kind of part of the process, because you don't, like, sure, if you had more connections, or sure, if you had the experience to retrospectively be like, oh, I should have done this, if you had that experience then, but you won't because you're it's your first time going around. So definitely, I mean, I also did research. And of course I very fortunately ended up publishing my first novel through Snowy Wings, which has been a wonderful experience. And I definitely don't want to downplay, like, it's very collaborative and wonderful, but like Lyssa does a huge amount too. So I don't want to downplay the amount of work that Lyssa does for all of us. But yeah, I just experiences in queering and kind of shopping it around and making connections with people who were like, oh yeah, I can connect you to this person, I can help you with this, and it can, you know, selling it like they could get me in a door that they actually couldn't or weren't going to get me into. And I think that those are all things that happen. So ideally research, ideally being cautious, going with your gut about a feeling about the people you're working with, how they're responding to your manuscript and your queries and all these things. But also, I absolutely understand that with any manuscript, but especially first early ones, that, you know, anytime somebody starts showing interest, there is, you do feel like, well, I got to jump on this or I'll lose it. So trust your gut, but if you're getting into publishing, you're probably going to have at least a few not wonderful stories to tell when you're doing your own event like this. And then on to the next person.
All right. Well, I can really only agree with pretty much what everyone has said so far about Snowy Wings. Like, it's been a really nice experience to have this community of other authors. You can ask for advice even. Like, I'm probably one of the youngest authors in the group with the least amount of experience. And just being able to come up to another author and asking like, hey, how would you deal with this situation? Or how have you done this in the past? Is just incredible. And I would definitely say, like, find someone who has a little bit of experience in the field who can just give you advice, but also be careful with who you choose for that, so they don't end up using you instead, because I've heard that happen to other people, and that does not sound fun. But yeah, also, if you're given a piece of paper to sign, make sure you get somebody else to look over it. Because when I was 17, I had a book before Captain Black Shadow, which was in German, and I didn't do my research when I sent it out to publishers, but I did get 2 contracts back. And luckily, I was smart enough to get a relative who's a lawyer to look over them. And basically, he immediately picked one of them and said, yeah, that one, don't do that one. Whatever you do, don't even touch that. If I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't have seen it as easily. So, you know, get somebody else's eyes and ears and thoughts. On to Dorothy.
I also would agree with what everyone has said. I can remember in the beginning how much I was doing research. We're talking like 11 years ago when, and I'm sure these websites still are around, but there was Writer Beware and Editors and Predators. There was also a website that I looked at quite often called Mrs. Snark's First Victim, where she would feature different agents and different publishers and small publishers too, and just reading up on all of that so I could get all the information that I could. There were also some forums where writers could go in. I don't know if they exist anymore, but I'm sure they do, where writers would go in and just talk to each other about their experiences and what they heard about this publisher, this agent. And yeah, that was a big help to have all that information at hand. So yeah, research.
All right, that time I remembered to unmute, but then it went and pushed the button. Thinking about over, and if you don't have an answer for this, and that's fine, you could just say pass or whatever. Thinking about your whole writing careers in general, how many rejection letters or rejection emails did you receive? Were there a lot? How horrible was it? I have had, well, I've only sent off one short story at one point, well, several years ago. But when I got the letter that they said, we're sorry, we're not going to choose your story, whatever, I was so proud of myself. I was like, oh, it's my first rejection letter. That's awesome. I was so happy about that. But so tell us a little bit just about maybe if you got a lot of rejections or what that experience was like for you or how you felt about that.
I don't think since I mostly have only indie published books, and then the traditional contract that I got was one that I was offered from somebody who knew my Lyssa stuff. So that doesn't apply, but I have submitted a lot of short stories. And some of them, actually, either I will get accepted right away or I will never, ever get that story published, basically. Like every magazine will reject it, or else like right away it gets accepted, if that makes sense. I don't remember how many. It's not a huge deal to me because they're just short stories. It makes me feel good when they accept them, but I don't really care too much when they don't. But I know that I'm kind of in a different group because of the fact that I haven't put any books out there. So I will let the others who have done more share their stories.
Well, when I first started, I didn't know anything. I mean, I was completely ignorant. I've been a librarian for years and I'd worked with publishers and everything, and I didn't know anything. So, I was older when I actually wrote my first book. For years, I'd said I was going to write a book, and then I never did. And finally, I said, I'm going to write one just to prove I can to myself, which is what I did. That book's in a drawer. And its sequel sitting in the drawer. But I don't remember how many rejections. It wasn't a lot, actually, because I got this deal with this smaller publisher fairly quickly once I really was serious about querying and I'd gotten the agent. But one thing I always like to point out to people is that you still get rejected even when you have an agent, even when you have books out. I now have written 13 books. And I guess, let's see, of those 13, I think 11 have been or will soon be published in some form. But I still get rejected. And I mean that in that I do a lot of proposals with my agent. We'll give a new story idea. We want to start a new series or something like that. And we'll send it out. And even with the track record, I've got pretty good track record with my mysteries, but that doesn't mean anything. So I just want to let people know when you're querying, when you're trying, it's not a lot of times you're writing. I mean, obviously I can write or I wouldn't have gotten all these books published and they wouldn't be doing well. But sometimes it's just the market that they just say, this is not for us. It's not going to work in the market. And I think Lyssa said that, and Mary and some other people, that it's a book it's a good book, but for whatever reason, the agent or the publisher doesn't feel they can sell it. And that's the name of the game. So, don't beat yourself up. I guess that's my word out to people about, oh, I got all these rejections. Well, it may have nothing to do with your writing ability, your story, your characters, or anything else. It may simply be the market. And I say that sincerely because I know it's true, because we've been told that. I mean, I've been told that directly by publishing houses that we sent proposals to. It's just not right for the market. That's what they say. So so you got to bear that in mind, unfortunately. And that's why things like co-ops are good and indie publishing is good. And I'll pass it on.
Not only is it sometimes not right for the market, it's sometimes not right for the publisher. I've had some rejections from publishers who are like, this is one thing and this is not what we do. So part of it is finding the right person, the right publisher for that particular story. And I guess I would say, yeah, don't let them get you down. Take whatever advice you can get and listen to whatever anybody's saying to you about, if they're saying make these changes or, look for a different venue for this piece or whatever, and learn from it. And, try not to let it get you down, because you can write and you will get better. And it is a process, and all of those things are true. They're kind of annoying, but they're true. So don't let them get you down.
So I actually was just pulling up a document because I actually tracked all my queries for what would eventually become Star Swept. And it looks like I sent out 36 queries. I had 5 straight out rejections, 1 manuscript request for the whole thing. No, wait. 1 rejection on the whole manuscript, never mind. 4 partial requests, 2 full requests, and eventually 1 person offered. So yeah, that was the story behind Star Swept. Looks like I got that means 35 rejections on it before I got the agent, who then ended up sending it out to editors. And I think she's probably sent to at least 30 editors overall. So what is that? A total of 64 rejections by the end of it. So that's a lot of rejections. And I'm still getting rejected. So right now I'm with a different agent, and he sold my first book. But the next 2 manuscripts that he went out on submission with didn't sell. And I think, again, he probably sent it to like 30 editors each, and just one by one, they were like, sorry, not for me. And so basically the rejection never ends. But in my experience, at least, it does get easier. Like I remember when I was first starting out, I would get really angry every time I saw a rejection, even though I'd heard everybody's advice, don't take it personally, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I know, they probably barely even read the query, relax, it's not a big deal, but you can't help it, and it's natural to be a little angry. And I remember I had a kickboxing gym at the time. One time, I don't know what it was, I received a rejection. It was probably number 26 or something, and I was just so mad. I literally just drove over there and just wailed on a bag, and I was like, okay, that feels better. So we all have our own coping mechanisms. Apparently mine is hitting things that don't hit back. On to Leigh.
So yeah, I mean, it's it is a career of rejections, right? That is sort of what you sign up for. And I think I will echo what everybody said, which is yes, you have to come to terms with it on your own, in your own way, however you're able to come to terms with that. And the first set of rejections you'll get will make you feel some sort of way, whether you got to go destroy a kickboxing bag, or I would always be very deeply hurt by the rejections. I'd be like, they hate me, they hate everything about what I'm putting out there. And now, and I'll be very honest, even now when I get rejection letters, I'll be like, okay, there'll be a moment of it stings, and I'll be like, okay, and then put that into my the email folder where I'm like, okay, this is where I track my submissions, but I don't have to look at it right now. And then I can be like, okay, that's fine. Move on from that. But it doesn't, I don't think it's not a healthy way to be like, oh, every rejection I get, I've got to be like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm cool. No, who cares about it? If you care and if it affects you, that's fine. And that's natural because you're putting effort and love into what you're doing. But definitely, like everyone said, rejections are predominant, and 98% of the time it's not about you or what you're putting. It's not about your book or your writing necessarily. It's about it not matching something. And it's a lot of, because I've queried a lot more for short stories, and with short stories, they're not generally being, sometimes they are, but they're not generally being sold. They're being put into a publication that may be being sold or something, but it's not like they're looking to, sell, thousands of copies. But even then it'll be much more about it doesn't match with the style or the style of the journal or the compilation or whatever, or it doesn't match with the editor's preferences, or even it doesn't match with maybe it does match with all those things, but for some reason the other aspects of that one volume of the journal might just not match the other writers or whoever. So I think the best, what I do is I just kind of, when I'm sending out things, I just kind of get my long list of everyone, ideally anybody I want to send to, and just send it out to them and expect that most, if not all of them, will be rejections, but at least it's going out there. So maybe, you know, maybe the people I think, oh, this would be perfect for them, they'll be like, oh, no, not this one. But somebody who I'm like, they're not going to care about this, but I'll send it anyway. This actually has happened to me. They're the ones who come back and be like, oh, I really love this. Like, can you, like, we want to get this piece, or we want to, you know, publish this in this sort of way. So I think it's really just about, you think of it like, you know, baking a cake or sewing a clothing or whatever you want to do. Every time you do it, it's just another skill in your tool set. So every time you do it, it gets easier to do, and it gets more effective, and you are able to handle it better and appreciate the process more thoroughly. So that's what I would say. On to Janina.
So I have never bothered with keeping count on how many rejections I've gotten, and there have been a few, both for books as well as short stories. But in the end, I think it's down to perspective. So I tend to think of queries for stories similar to job applications, where if you get a rejection, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad or that, you know, you're not good at what you do. It just means that they don't believe that it was right for them, for what they need, for what they want. So yes, there are sometimes applications or submissions that you were really, really hoping for, and when the rejection comes, it gets you really down in the dumps. But in the end, you know, you'll get past it. There have also been rejections that just make me laugh. One time I got a rejection 15 minutes after I sent the submission on Easter Sunday. And I was just wondering, the poor agent, not even enjoying their holiday. That's all I could think about. And on the other hand, I've applied to jobs and got a rejection for this job application a year later when I didn't care about it anymore. So it's like you get both, and you know, take everything with a grain of salt and a bit of humor if you can. And on to Dorothy.
I've had over 100 rejections, I'm sure. There was a method to my madness where, and I think this was advice from someone, where I would send out 5 at a time, wait for the rejections to come. Send the next 5 out, wait for the rejections to come. And it wasn't always rejections. Sometimes I got requests for partials or maybe even the full manuscript, and then you get another rejection. And then it even hurts maybe even more because your hopes were up. You thought, oh, I have a chance. And then you drop even further than just a plain out rejection letter. And sometimes those rejections were just either perspective, or I think one time someone had submitted a story very similar to mine before me. And because they went with that author, I was out of luck. And like Vicky said, I still have rejections today. My agent always is pitching my stories, and you know, even with an accolade of USA Today bestselling author, you get the rejections, and you just have to have a thick skin and just keep going and hope for that one yes. And I always think of Stephen King, where he said he got so many rejection letters he could wallpaper his house. So, you know, it's just a matter of who's sending them. They don't know always who's going to be a big writer, or I mean, it doesn't have to be a big writer, but they don't know what the readers are looking for. So hang in there.
All right, I am going to ask this question directly to Lyssa, and we're going to start wrapping up, and we're going to ask this question, then we'll do one more round. So Lyssa, when authors submit a manuscript to you, what are you looking for? I mean, aside from, do you have specific submission rules? What do you look for in the manuscript? And do you have any advice to people when they send off? I mean, I know we've given a lot of advice, but as an editor or a publisher, what would you say?
What I'm looking for kind of tends to be a little bit different than I think what other publishers would be looking for. because for the last several years we haven't had open submissions anymore. Just because since we're co-op, we don't have staff, and it was just like overwhelming for me to handle it. So basically, right now, how we take in new people is through referrals, and that's why so many of these people have so-and-so referred me as how they joined, because really what I need is people who are going to be willing to follow the rules, and some of those rules include, like, you have to have it professionally edited and you have to have a professional cover design, and like invariably when I open submissions up, people will, like, I have like a big list of like, these are the rules and you have to follow them, and there aren't exceptions, and you have to like check a little box that says, yes, I understand that. We'll get all the way through, like, I'll read their manuscript and it'll sound good, and I'll be ready to offer them to join. And then it'll be like, I want my wife to be my editor. I want my cousin to be my cover designer. And I'm like, no, I told you already, you can't. And so it just got to the point where I was like, no more open submissions. So that's why ours are the way that we are. But I would say that for like general querying of regular, like if you're querying an agent or if you're querying an independent publisher who doesn't require you to be represented in order to submit, just make your manuscript as clean as you can, but you don't have to like actually have it professionally edited or anything. Like, don't, just do your best. And then there are a bunch of different resources online. And there's a book series by Beth Revis called Paper Hearts that has like writing advice and querying advice and publishing advice. And her stuff is really good, and it kind of walks you through the process. And I think if you just like kind of stick to that, do your best, and then, like everybody said, don't take the rejection super personally, because every publisher is looking for something specific for that publisher. It's like how I have my specific needs for Snowy Wings. I need it to be this way, and the people who wanted their wife to be their editor or their cousin to be their cover designer, the book was good. It's just that I have specific requirements that I need for my publisher. Other publishers have specific requirements that they need, or things that they're looking for, or things that they think are going to sell well, or that are going to fit with their catalog, or if it's a short story, like Leigh said, that's going to fit with the other stories in the magazine or in the journal or in the anthology. So yeah, just try to keep a positive attitude, and if you get a rejection, don't take it personally. That's my advice.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna really quick share my screen if I can figure out how. There we go. Share. For everybody out there, this is the website, and it is beautiful. So if anybody's interested in purchasing any books or looking at their website, Snowy Wings Publishing, their authors, which we have several people, and Seeing Goddess is the newest anthology. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that is actually, I will take a minute to discuss that, because Jane was not able to be here today, but she is the editor of Seeing Goddess. This stripe is because this is a proof copy. So it won't be here on the real version, but this is an anthology. Usually we try to do one every year where our members are able to write stories that are based around a theme. This one's theme is Greek mythology. It's young adult. It's got 11 stories in it, and everyone here except for Victoria has a story in it. And yeah, it's got the little post-it flags in it because she's doing a final typo check on it right now. The book is coming out in August, and once she's done making sure that we have obliterated every typo in this book, it will be up for pre-order in paperback format. Right now it is up for pre-order in ebook format as well, and we're really excited. In the past we've done anthologies that are based on Shakespeare and on fairy tale retellings. That's the one that's behind Mary's head. And Janina also edited the one that Victoria's holding up right now, which was based on a theme of magic and fantasy. So yeah, those are fun little snippets of samples of all of our writing styles and what kind of stories we like to tell. And having edited a couple with Leigh, I do see what you mean about writing literary fiction, because usually their stories are like sci-fi or fantasy of some kind, but they have like a more literary feel. And then like you look at mine and I just tend to go like straight up like Madeline L'Engle style sci-fi and fantasy. Like everybody's got their own little style, and it's fun to see how they express those in short stories as opposed to a novel format.
All right, so for our last question, and to wrap things up, everybody's kind of been plugging their own books and promoting, which is awesome because that's what we want. So take the time for everybody to go ahead and promote what your current like story or book, or if you don't have anything that's coming out right now, or that you just want to skip that part and you want to talk about a story that you're just itching to write, that's just been like taking space in your brain and ready to get that story out. Just tell us a little bit about that.
So, first of all, I didn't introduce you all to Sylvia. This is our mascot. She was sitting on the desk earlier and I forgot to hold her up. So my series as Lyssa is the Yamos trilogy. It is a sci-fi series that is set on Mars about 50 years from now, and I like to pitch it as Disney's Atlantis on Mars with time travel. That's basically what it is. And I'm working on the third book right now. I'm not sure when it's going to come out though, because I have some chronic health problems and they have been flaring up this year. So my like concentration levels have been poor. So that's my next book that's coming. I just don't know when that's going to be, but I'm really looking forward to writing the last book in the series. I've got it all outlined. I know where it's going, and I think it's going to be really exciting for people, and I hope that you will enjoy it. And then as Lyssa Keyston, I write the Northwest Magic series. This is published through our sister imprint. It's still Snowy Wings, but Snowy Wings is for middle grade and young adult books. And Crimson Fox Publishing is our imprint for adult books and like new adult books as well. And so several of the authors who are here have also published with Crimson Fox, or we also have authors that are only with Crimson Fox, not with Snowy Wings. But the Northwest Magic series takes place in the Pacific Northwest, and it is, my clock is going off, but it's a fantasy romance series, contemporary. It's kind of like a Hallmark Channel style romance, but it also has fantasy and like light cozy mystery in it. So I think that if you like, I think that it appeals to both people who like fantasy and like contemporary fantasy, and people who like Hallmark Channel style romance.
I have to unmute myself. Well, the reason I don't have a story in the anthology, and I have nothing coming up with Snowy Wings right now, or Crimson Fox either, is that this is some of my mystery books. And the latest one comes out this one comes out in December. This is the ARC that just came in. So I've been really, really busy. I got contracts with my publisher, Crooked Lane, which have overwhelmed me basically and not allowed me to do anything with Snowy Wings or Crimson Fox, although I have ideas. And so my agent and I decided that this year I had three deadlines. And I just couldn't do anything else. So that's another thing about publishing that you have to understand, is that you take 10 years to write your first book, and then you get contracts, and then they want books 2 and 3 in 6 months. So it's really a lot of time pressure sometimes. even with traditional publishing, it really is hard to keep up. And I do have ideas, though. I have things that next year, we said we're going to only have 2 deadlines, which is what we've set up for the next several years, because I have contracts out into 2024 or 5, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's going to give me a little more time. And I have some things that I had shelved that I'm hoping to revive and rework. One of them is a adult sci-fi, which would be with Crimson Fox, obviously. And I've actually written 2 of the 3 books. They just need some work. So hopefully I can get back to that at some point. And I'll pass it on.
So the Zodiac Cusp Kids series is a series of novellas. So they're little short guys. The idea behind writing shorter books was that I felt like a lot of us just don't have time for something bigger than what you can just read on your lunch break. I feel like that's a function of reading too many things online, maybe. But I tried something small just to see what it would go like. And this series is set in Lincoln, Nebraska, because I think not enough stories are set in Lincoln, Nebraska. And it is also set in the 80s, because that's really fun. And I have not watched Stranger Things yet, because I have to get this series completely finished before I can allow myself to watch Stranger Things. So I'm really looking forward to putting the last book out. The most recent one is something twisted, and they all have something in the title, something wicked, something haunted, something lost, something found. And I tried to take pieces from growing up in Lincoln and make them into something that is both a little bit of fantasy fiction, a little bit of sci-fi, and a whole lot of adventure. So that's what the series is about. As far as things that I'm dying to write, I've got a list like everybody else. One of the stories that I'm working on now is one that my husband has titled "The Unluckiest Woman in the Universe." So we'll see if that one actually pans out. It doesn't sound like the most joyful thing I've ever written, perhaps, but I did also have an idea about a world in which dogs viewed fire trucks as their deities. So I'm kind of aiming for that one as well. So that's what's cooking at my house. I'm going to pass it on to Mary.
So I have with Snowy Wings, Star Swept, which is a sci-fi romance about a performing arts school in the future. And it's actually a trilogy. This is the first one. The 3rd book in the trilogy came out about a year ago, so it's now complete. And they're also all on audio. So if you like audiobooks, I have the best narrator in the world. Her name is Emily Lou Zeller, and I adore her. And I also have with Snowy Wings, Windborn, which is an epic fantasy about an air nymph who has 7 days to make it home or her life expires. So it's kind of a fantasy adventure across like this enchanted world, and also a bit of a romance. And this is the first in a series. I need to write the second one. I actually have a whole outline. I know what's going to be written. I just need to actually write it. On to Leigh.
So I'm in the middle of transitioning out of a full-time job to that is not related at all to writing or publishing, and into what will hopefully be a more full-time creative work and writing time. We'll see if that works, but that's what I'm going to try to do. So I currently, as I said, I have Orbit, which is a near future sci-fi story, pretty heavily influenced by, I'm from Chicago, and to echo Sarah's comments about Lincoln, Nebraska, I am really committed to writing things, even though I haven't done it yet, that are set in Chicago, because I think Chicago often gets, I mean, not as much as Lincoln, Nebraska, but in terms of LA versus New York, there you don't get a lot of stuff. I don't see a lot of stuff that I'm interested in reading or seeing about Chicago. So the Orbit is pretty heavily influenced by kind of a sci-fi idea about what basically what housing projects look like in the future and how that kind of the like social implications of all of that. And there may be more stories in that universe coming out at some point when I get to them. But in terms of future things, that, as everybody has said, I have several ideas. I'm queer and I'm non-binary, so a lot of my stories kind of have that kind of those themes in some ways. So I'm always very interested in looking at kind of traditional tropes or genres or themes and kind of queering them in that sort of way. One of these days, I'd really like to write an epistolary, which is like in letter format, a prequel to Dracula, basically, that follows Renfield and how Renfield comes into Dracula's orbit. So that's something I'd like to write one of these days. That would, of course, be set in the 1870s in Chicago. So maybe that will come, but also we'll see. Don't hold me to a timeline on that. And then on to Janina.
All right. Well, I just published my newest book, A Spark in Space, just less than a month ago. I'm very happy with how it turned out. It also has absolutely gorgeous art inside by a very talented artist, which I might be able to find, I might not. Here's one. Ta-da! This book is a sci-fi fantasy adventure, YA, with a sentient spaceship, and the protagonist has technomancy powers, which doesn't happen that often, I think. There's other alien species there as well. Set in the future, global warming has happened, kind of destroyed half the planet. So, you know, humans were forced into space. I think it's fun. Maybe you will too. But yeah, other than that, I've been writing a lot of more adult stories over the past year, which I'm currently actually trying to get ready for maybe publication. We'll see. And on to Dorothy.
Okay, so my first series that was out with Snowy Wings is Curse of the Phoenix series. And the German version of the first book should be coming out next month. So that's something I'm excited about. I also have the Empire of the Lotus series, which is 7 books. Technically, they're novellas because they're around 30,000 words. So they're not, I think the technical number for a novel is like 50,000 words. Although people can disagree with that. And then I put them all together into one omnibus, heavy doorstop thing. I also have, not with Snowy Wings, but with traditional publishers, I have 2 books coming out this year. Next month, my contribution to the Shared World Black Mariah series is coming out, which is a global thriller. That was a challenge because that's out of my wheelhouse to write. And I have a holiday romance coming out in November. And I have some ideas of what I want to write next for Snowy Wings, but right now my brain is so full that I probably would just trip over my words explaining it.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. So somebody in the chat actually asked, what is like the first recommended step? Jennifer actually asked this. What's the first recommended step? Would it be to get an agent? So like, anybody want to touch on that one, or whoever wants to maybe answer that? Anybody has any thoughts?
I can take that one. So it kind of depends on what your goals are for your book. If you love your book the way it is and you want it out in the world like your way, in that case, like that's what indie publishing is for. If you're looking to get traditionally published, through, HarperCollins or something, and the advantage of that is, of course, somebody else does all the work and all you do is get paid. Then yes, I would recommend getting an agent. That said, there are small presses out there that accept unagented manuscripts. So I would actually recommend doing both at the same time, especially if you actually end up getting a contract with a small press and you're also querying agents, that can actually be leverage. Like, agents might be interested in representing something that a publisher's already interested in.
Yeah, I put up the querytracker.net link there. That's a really great resource for agents because not only does it list them, and there's actually a way on there, it's free. They try to sell you an advanced version, it's not necessary, but there is a free version. I used it a lot because you can list agents by the genres they're looking for and all sorts of other things, age group they're looking for. The other great resource there is the comments section on the agents. Now, I would advise reading that. If there are comments about the agents, it can be really helpful to see what people say, because occasionally, they'll be honest and say, this person didn't treat me right or whatever. And it's a good way to sort of weed out a few people that maybe look good on paper, but they really aren't that great, or it gets your list, and you can actually set up a database for yourself of the list and show whether you've queried them and and did you get a rejection or a yes or partial or whatever, but I think that's a wonderful resource because it's not like doesn't make value judgments except for the comments, I guess is what I'm saying. You can look things up and then you start to research, because once you get the names of those people, start researching them everywhere, Googling and looking on sites that like Writer Beware and other things, because they will tell you, people who have had issues, and some of them are big names, really big names. Some of them work for really big agencies. You start digging into that and then you find out maybe not. So it is a research heavy sort of thing before you even query, because this is a sort of thing that everybody says, but it's true. It's better to have no agent than a bad one, and it's very true. I've had a so-so one and now I have a great one, and I can tell you the difference is immense between the two. And you've got to find the right fit for yourself, because even a great agent might not work well with you. If you have a great agent, but they don't want to work with your type of book, or they're really not strong in that, or they want you to change everything about your style, then maybe that's not what you want.
All right. So did anybody, I think we have a couple of participants. Did anybody else have any other questions? I'll give you a second to type that in, or maybe if you want to unmute. But I will say that all of this recording, we're going to actually have this posted on the Neuse Regional Library's YouTube, and Lyssa's going to post it on the Snowy Wings YouTube as well. So there'll be two places you can watch this, and we'll share it out with everybody. So if anybody, if you know somebody that may be interested and you didn't, then they didn't get to watch today, you'll be able to share that with them. All right. I think Sharon. Yes, ma'am.
Shonda?
Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I am interested in getting published, but I am interested in doing my photographs or my drawings. Do they have any advice for a person who is not really good at writing but wants to publish a book that is either photographs or drawings?
Anybody?
My agent actually represents both illustrators and authors. There are agents that represent illustrators. So again, I think if you look on QueryTrack or some other places, they may have that listings of people who actually represent artists as opposed to strictly writers.
Lyssa, did you have anything else to add to that?
The only thing I was going to say, I didn't know anything about the traditional aspects, so I'm glad that Victoria was able to answer that. You technically can self-publish those, but I don't think that they offer glossy pages for print on demand. So if you're doing photographs, they might not look super good if you were to self-publish that. However, I did help one of my friends who is an illustrator who did like kind of little comic strips, format that up for print on demand, and that came out fine. You can do color I don't know how much that adds to the price. But if it's black and white, it'll pretty much be the same price as if it's just text. So.
All right, anything else from anybody? I really appreciate all of you guys for giving part of your Saturday away, and for our people that are all the way from that are in Ireland and Germany, like, thank you. It's like 8 o'clock at night there, isn't it? Or it's like after 9 now? 10
After
o'clock?
9 for me.
Yeah.
8 in Ireland.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for giving up your Saturday night. And everybody else for being here. I really appreciate you being a part of my program and answering questions for people. And if anybody has any questions, I'm going to put my email in the box. If anybody has any other questions about the program or Snowy Wings, and I can push the question on to Lyssa, or you can actually contact through Snowy Wings. Have like a contact form, yeah, on the Snowy Wings website. All right, thank you all for being here, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
And thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, no problem. Bye.
Thank you for having us all.
No problem.